Sonic Adventure was the big step to 3D that Sonic really needed, with many aspects of the game. Its art direction and next-gen appeal made it the Sonic game to get at the time. But even though Sonic Adventure was well regarded, it couldn't save the Dreamcast. The Dreamcast was planned to be discontinued in 2001, so the team behind Sonic Adventure got to work on the next Sonic game, which was set to be the 10th anniversary title for the franchise. It would then be the last game to release on the Sega Dreamcast, which was one of the most well-known Sonic games, Sonic Adventure 2. Sonic Adventure 2 is another Sonic game I think needs no introduction. It's a Sonic game that your grandma has heard about, can't stop listening to the music and quoting the lines. Upon release, Sonic Adventure 2 received positive reviews, but what held it back was the fact that it was the last game released on the Sega Dreamcast in a year where the PS2 was out already and the Gamecube and Xbox were about to come out. So it sold around 500,000 copies or so. But a year later, Sega decided to re-release the game on the Nintendo Gamecube, which came to be known as Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. This was unheard of at the time. A Sega game and Sega property being released on a Nintendo console was like Jesus being reborn in front of the entire world. This wasn't just a one-time thing either, because not only did we get SA2 Battle, but we also got Sonic Advance on the Game Boy Advance around the same time as Sonic Adventure 2 Battle's release, which led to the Sonic Mega Collection and Sonic Adventure DX being released on the Gamecube, which led to every Sonic game released after Sonic Adventure 2 being on every console, making Sega not a hardware manufacturer, but a software manufacturer. Now, even though I grew up with Sonic Adventure DX as a kid, I never really played or even owned Sonic Adventure 2 as a kid. In fact, it was the last major Sonic game I played before being caught up with the series in 2017. Back then, I thought it was one of the best Sonic games ever made, though at the time I preferred other Sonic games like Sonic Rush, Sonic Heroes, Sonic Colors, Sonic Generations, and Rush Adventure to name a few. Around 2021, when I got my new PC, I replayed Sonic Adventure 2 after not having played it for a few years, and that's when I would say my thoughts on it soured a bit, realizing certain aspects of the game I didn't like, but I have since replayed it 2 times before making this video, and my opinions on the game have changed a little bit since then. I know this is basically like the 1 million Sonic Adventure 2 video on the planet, but that's what happens when Sonic makes either a good game or a bad game. YouTube will milk the ever-living shit out of it. With all that out of the way, let's get into Sonic Adventure 2. Similar to Sonic Adventure, Sonic Adventure 2 has multiple campaigns. You start with the hero story and the dark story. I won't do what I did in the adventure video with going from story to added section, cause it wouldn't flow well in the script, so I'll go over the setup of each story and then talk about the game in my typical format. In the hero story, Sonic is on a helicopter as you were arrested, which then leads us into one of the most iconic moments in Sonic history.
Gone! He's taken out everyone aboard and...
What's wrong?
What in the
Come
world?
in! Over!
Freeze! What do you think you're doing? Get that hedgehog!
Talk about low-budget flights, no food or movies. I'm out of here. I like running better.
After the first stage and the first boss, Sonic confronts a hedgehog who the public sees as Sonic and has an interesting power that Sonic nor the other characters have seen before. After some shenanigans on Prison Island and setting up Knuckles' story for the game, Eggman announces his plan to destroy the Earth, and it is up to Sonic and his friends to stop Eggman from destroying the Earth. In the dark story, Eggman is tearing through Prison Island after learning about Project Shadow from his grandfather's diary. He releases Project Shadow, who turns out to be the Black Hedgehog from the hero story named Shadow. Shadow tells the Doctor to come to the Ark and to bring Chaos Emeralds, where Shadow tells him about the Eclipse Cannon, which starts the villain's plan to destroy the world. The setup for the hero story is very typical of a Sonic game, I would say. There is a new thread and Dr. Eggman's behind all of it. That's not to say that the hero story isn't interesting. In fact, it contains some of my favorite parts of the story, which we will get to when we go further into the story of the game. But in terms of setup, the dark story is more interesting, as not only are we seeing the events of the story from the villain's side, but we also are seeing the connections between the two and learning more about how the events from the hero's side are unfolded and new revelations involving the world of Sonic. Both setups work well gripping the player to see the story through, but I would be lying if I said I thought one was more interesting than the other. Just like with the Sonic Adventure video, I won't be talking about the presentation in terms of the graphical showcase of it. That will be saved for when I compare the different versions of Sonic Adventure 2 later in the video. Instead, I want to talk about the presentation of the game in terms of cutscenes, voice acting, and soundtrack. The presentation for Sonic Adventure 2 is much more improved from the previous game. One of the problems with Sonic Adventure was the cutscene presentation being very limited, to say the least. The game had this charm, and it was one of the first Sega Dreamcast games, but the animation for the characters held back the story with them using a select few preset animations. The voice acting having room for improvement, and the slow pacing of the cutscenes made following the story of Sonic Adventure 1 I don't really enjoy as much as I can. Sonic Adventure 2, however, fixes most of the issues. The cutscenes in Sonic Adventure 2 are full-blown animated with unique movements, making them look more interesting to follow than in Sonic Adventure. There are some movements that are the same, like Knuckles' punching thing from his first cutscene being used again in the same cutscene and on the Space Colony arc when he is fighting Rouge. Another thing about the animation is the way the characters move about. Sometimes they will have movements that look off to the average person, like they are controlled by a puppeteer. Eggman is the most guilty of this notion, I would say. It's stuff like these that shows Sonic Adventure 2 has aged, but it's far from unwatchable. The voice acting in the game is a huge improvement from the previous game. The actors returning for this game are Ryan Drummond as Sonic, Dean Bristow as Dr. Eggman, and Jennifer Dooleyard as Amy. The new actors for this game are David Humphrey as Shadow, Connor Bringas as Tails, Scott Dreyer as Knuckles, and Lady Manila as Rouge. I said in the Sonic Adventure video that Ryan Drummond is a good Sonic, and it still applies to this game. He has the energy that Sonic needs, but can sometimes be a little too much for my liking.
This game of tag is boring. I'm out of here. Finally decided to show up, eh? Okay, bring it on!
Connor Bringas as Tails is definitely my pick for the worst performance in the game. His line delivery sounds a bit awkward most of the time, and he sounds a lot more older than he realistically should have been. I never really been one who likes Tails to have a male actor to play him, but this is easily the best male actor to play Tails in the games.
The first Bernoulli spherical space colony, called ARC. When it was operational, it was the most advanced research center of its kind. But looking at it now,
Scott Dreyer as Knuckles is a pretty darn good choice, since I think he has this down-to-earth tone to him that makes him sound like Knuckles, but also doesn't go overboard in scenes where he's a bit more loud. I love Dan Green's Knuckles, but I think Scott Dreyer is probably the best voice for the character.
The Master Emerald contains special powers that neutralize the energy of the Chaos Emeralds. That makes it very powerful. What the?
David Humphrey as Shadow is definitely a fan favorite for many Sonic fans, and I do understand why. David has this oomph with Shadow that makes him sound serious and grungy, but not taking it too far like the recent voice actor for Shadow, Kirk Thornton. But he still did a good job as Shadow in Shadow Gens. David is definitely a really good Shadow.
I still remember what I promised you. For the people of this planet, I promise you revenge.
I talked about Dean Bristow before as Dr. Eggman. He has this energy to his performance that makes Eggman's demeanor work really well. He was already the best actor in Sonic Adventure 1, and I think that he is the best actor in Sonic Adventure 2, so it's not a shock to me.
So this is the military's top secret weapon. It's a lot smaller than I expected.
Lani Manila as Rouge is whatever to me. I think that she did a fine enough job in this game. I just don't really feel much energy in her performance compared to the later actors for Rouge, but not bad whatsoever.
This is Rouge. I've located Eggman's base and will proceed to enter it now. I hate to say it. I guess I'm going to have to find that key first.
Finally, we have Jennifer Dooleyard as Amy. Just like in Adventure 1, she is pretty spot on voice for the character, not overdoing her lines, but also making them feel very much like Amy. Being the nice middle ground, whilst Amy herself can get annoying after a while, mainly for the lines she has and overall relevance in the story, but Jennifer Dooleyard did a good job as Amy.
I know, but I'm here to save my hero, Sonic.
again?
Hurry! I know Eggman's up to no good again.
For the most part, I quite like the voices in the game. They fit the characters, and with the improved presentation of the cutscenes, make them feel like they have more life in them. Now, what is a Sonic game without a soundtrack that slaps harder than 90% of any other game score? The soundtrack in this game is known to have some of the most iconic songs in the series, which can be said for basically any Sonic game from 1991 all the way to 2008, maybe 2011. What I like the most about this soundtrack is that each character is surrounded by a certain genre of music unique to them. Sonic stages boast high energy rock music, Tails' boasts electronic rock with guitar riffs to make it sound more upbeat. Knuckles' stages boast hip-hop and rap.
I ain't gon' let it get to me, I'm just gon' creep down in Pumpkin Hill, I got to find my lost piece. I know that it's here, I can sense it in my feet. The great emerald's power allows me to feel.
Shadow is most associated with burning techno pieces to complement his personality. Eggman boasts industrial rock with hits of EDM in them. And Rouge boasts smooth jazz pieces with female vocals complementing them. There are also vocal tracks in the game, with each character getting a theme. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles get new renditions of their themes from Sonic Adventure, and I think they are good, but I do prefer the SA1 versions by a little bit.
It doesn't matter now what happens, I will never give up the fight, long as the voice inside drives me to run and fight. It doesn't matter who is wrong and who is right. Gotta get a hold of my life, I wanna fly high, so I can reach the highest of all the heavens. Somebody will be. K-N-C-K-L-E-S, we born for a lifetime on Angel Island. We do this to protect, that's the emerald diamond. Hold and climb it, it's something to shine it. But every time we look for the sun, can't find it. Is this the way, the path I chose? Then why am I living with my heart so cold? All that I see is a storm of stones.
The Dark Side characters get entirely new themes. I like them all, with my favorite being Shadow's theme, Throw It All Away, which perfectly resembles his state of being in the Dark story very well.
The darkness, the dozens in the dusk, throw it all away. No one can break you, nobody can tear you. You live an endless life forever. I am the Eggman, that's what I am. I am the Eggman, I got the master plan. I am the Eggman, that's what I am. I am the Eggman, with the master plan.
The rhythm against the floor to look for another door. I am slipping to the mystery of the night.
With all that out of the way, let's talk about the gameplay of Sonic Adventure 2. In Sonic Adventure, there were 6 campaigns: Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Big, and Gamma. All of them had different playstyles that made them their own characters in terms of their playstyle. In Sonic Adventure 2, they only kept 3 playstyles from Sonic Adventure 1, which were Sonic's speed gameplay, Knuckles' treasure hunting gameplay, and Gamma's mech shooting gameplay. I think this was for the best, since Tails' gameplay was too broken for a 3D space. Amy's gameplay, well, being fun in its own right, didn't really show as much promise as it could have, and Big's gameplay was boring and frustrating for newer players. Another thing of note is that Sonic Adventure 2 acts the hub worlds that were in Sonic Adventure. I said in the Sonic Adventure video that I like the idea of hub worlds in a Sonic game since it could give the player freedom to play around with the mechanics of the game and make the world feel more realized. But the problem with them in Adventure 1 was that they broke up the pacing in between levels, which makes replaying Sonic Adventure not as fulfilling as it could have been. Sonic Adventure 2 just goes from stage to stage, which makes the problem in Adventure 1 non-existent. So let's start with the speed-focused characters, Sonic and Shadow. Sonic goes through 6 stages, while Shadow goes through 4 stages. City Escape, Metal Harbor, Green Forest, Pyramid Cave, Crazy Gadget, Final Rush, Radical Highway, White Forest, Skyrail, and Final Chase. In terms of how Sonic and Shadow feel in this game, I think it is just as good as how it felt in Adventure 1. The handling is on point, momentum was natural, there weren't really any downsides I could think of with the core moveset of the speed characters. If there was something that I noticed, it's that Sonic and Shadow aren't as floaty as Sonic in Adventure 1, but given the level design philosophy in Adventure 2, I'm not losing sleep over it. A mechanic that is introduced in this game that would become a staple of Sonic movesets would be rail grinding. Rail grinding in this game allows for spectacle in the stages, but also requires some semblance of skill to do, since you need to balance on the rails and time jumps to get bonus points from doing tricks off of them. If I were to think of anything wrong with rail grinding in this game, it's that switching between rails could feel really clunky, especially in levels like Skyrail and Final Rush. But I think this is a cool idea for a series staple, giving Sonic that cool factor he is well known for. There is also an improvement made to an upgrade in Adventure 1, the Lightspeed Dash. In Adventure 1, you had to hold down the spin dash button to charge up the move, which made going after secrets requiring it feel like a hassle. But in Adventure 2, it happens as soon as you press the button, which doesn't waste any of your time. There are also other upgrades in this game that Sonic and Shadow can get. Sonic has access to the bounce bracelet, and it is explained in the name. Sonic can bounce, which can be useful for breaking boxes and raking up time to get enemy kill combos for the high score. Sonic and Shadow also have access to the Flame Ring, which turns their roll maneuver into an attack that can deal damage to shielded enemies as well as break metal boxes. In terms of levels, I think all of them are pretty fun and well designed. The design philosophy for these levels have changed a little bit between Adventure 1 and Adventure 2. They are still point A to B levels, but Adventure 1's levels were a bit more open than in Adventure 2, as in you had more room to explore the levels to find secrets and figure out new routes. That's not to say that Adventure 2's levels don't have secrets and different routes, it's more so that the levels in Adventure 2 are more linear and contained. But one thing I will give Adventure 2 is that most of these levels are better than 75% of the levels in Adventure 1. City Escape is one of the most iconic first levels in any Sonic game. Hell, even the entire series with the likes of Green Hill and Chemical Plant. It's not the most complex level ever made, but it does a really good job at showing you the basics of the mechanics of the game, with rail grinding and the trick system pretty well. But this stage also has a spectacle to it, like nailing tricks off the board you ride on, and the final part of the stage, where a gun truck chases you down the streets. How can you not look at this level and think absolute cinema? Metal Harbor is my pick for the best speed level in the game. This one is definitely the quickest speed level in the game. It may not feel like it on the first go around, but once you get the Lightspeed Dash, the amount of shortcuts you can do in this game are insane, like going from the beginning to the homing attack chain and being able to reach the top of the rocket. It also helps that I think Metal Harbor is the best non-vocal song in the game with its head-rocking vibe. I love this stage a lot. Green Forest is also a really good stage. There's nothing bad about this stage or any pace-breaking moments similar to Metal Harbor. Pyramid Cave is one of the weaker speed stages in my opinion. This one should be up my alley because of the gimmick of time limits to reach the best path while trying to get the most points. But what makes this one of the weaker stages is the halfway point of the stage, where you have to carry a key to the door and it takes a good bit to get back to the door. It's the definition of a pace breaker. Crazy Gadget I have seen people call the worst Sonic stage in the game, and I agree with that notion. It's far from a bad stage, but it contains a lot of slow moments that don't give it the flow of other speed stages. The gimmick is needing to switch the flow of gravity, which makes the stage feel weird. Parts where you need to climb up ledges, and the final section is the slowest part of the stage, taking around 45 seconds to a minute to finish. Final Rush can be an annoying stage to complete, but I think that this is the most satisfying level to finish in the game. It's Sonic's final level, and he is running and grinding to the Eclipse Cannon as fast as he can. This fucker is going through space just to make it there in time, and Ruin's screw up means everything. Being able to rack up points by jumping off the rails at the right time and nailing shortcuts by jumping off vertical rails at the right time never gets old. Definitely one of my favorite speed levels. Then we hit Shadow's levels. Radical Highway is up there with City Escape for one of the most iconic levels in not only the game but in the series. It has the hallmarks that made City Escape iconic, with set pieces that make you look stylish while playing, with the biggest example being grinding down the bridge around the halfway point of the level. And there are many skips that were made intentional, like skipping the tower near the beginning by jumping around around it, and a spring at the bottom of the bridge that takes you to the top, skipping the platforming. Definitely one of my favorite stages in the game. White Forest is similar to Green Forest, where you go through the stage under a time limit, nothing super standout about it. Skyrim is similar to Final Rush, where it is all about grinding, but I don't like this stage as much as Final Rush, since there really isn't much platforming or non-grinding elements, and the other gimmick with this stage being the propeller springs, not being a fun gimmick for a speed stage. But it's not all that long, so it's not the worst stage ever made. Final Chase, however, is a level I've never really liked. Even back when I first played this game, the gimmick of this stage is that you have to use these gravity-based cylinders to get through the stage, and I never really found them all that fun. The sideways cylinders were fine to deal with, but the vertical cylinders I never liked traversing, since it's hard to see shadow on them and the speed isn't all that high when traveling on them. There are some skips you can do to make them feel shorter, but I still consider this the worst speed level in the entire game. While some things surrounding this playstyle have room for improvement, I do think that the speed stages and playstyle are definitely the most fun part of the game, with their great handling, fast pace, and mostly stellar levels. Not too dissimilar to how I felt about Sonic and Sonic Adventure 1, but this is still better than Sonic Adventure 1 because of Casinopolis. The next gameplay style we need to talk about is the treasure hunting playstyle, which features Knuckles the Echidna and Rouge the Bat. They go through 9 stages, which are Wild Canyon, Pumpkin Hill, Aquatic Mine, Death Chamber, Meteor Herd, Dry Lagoon, Egg Quarters, Security Hall, and Mad Space. In terms of controls, I would say it's the same feeling as Sonic and Shadow, just without the speed. They feel heavier than Knuckles in Adventure 1, but not a big deal. The new addition to this game is that you can dive through the air with the B button, which makes falling feel even more stylish. But other than that, Knuckles and Rouge are very similar to Knuckles in Adventure 1. The changes really come with 2 mechanics in the stages, which were the Emerald Radar and the Hint System. The Emerald Radar in Adventure 1 was broken in your favor, since it got louder whenever you were near the Emerald Shard, which just let the game play for itself at that point. In Adventure 2, the radar took a much needed nerf. The radar still shows colors, but they tell you how close you are level by level, instead of gradually telling you. I think this new radar system offers a good balance between helping the player, but letting them figure out where the shard is on their own. The new hit system in this game is also a lot better. In Sonic Adventure, Tikal would just point you towards the location of the Master Emerald Shard, which made completing Knuckles' levels easier than it already was. In this game, you get hint monitors that give you a clue as to where the Master Emerald Shard is, instead of telling you where it is. The hints become easier with each hint you get, but if you use all 3, you get less points from collecting the shards, so it's best to use either 1 or no hints for these levels, if you want that A rank. The level design is also better in this game compared to Adventure 1. In Adventure 1, Knuckles' levels were just sections of Sonic's levels. They managed to work since they were big open areas, but aside from Red Mountain, they never really took advantage of Knuckles' moveset. In Adventure 2, the playstyle got their own levels, which means that they could take advantage of the character's abilities and playstyle a lot more than in the first Sonic Adventure. Just like with the speed playstyle, will go level by level. Wild Canyon and Dry Lagoon are pretty standard first levels for the playstyle. I think they do a good job of easing the player into the level design of this playstyle by making the levels much smaller than the other levels in the game, so it works for what it's supposed to be. Pumpkin Hill is another level that is considered one of the most iconic in the series. It's truly the first big level in the playstyle with 3 main mountains to explore, which makes this level easier to really get into after Wild Canyon gave you a bit of a nudge. I also really like the atmosphere in this level, though it is killed a bit with the song that plays, but the song is a banger. Probably my favorite treasure hunting level in the game. Aquatic Mine is somewhat of a downgrade from Pumpkin Hill. It has the atmosphere and the music going for it, but I think in terms of its gimmick, it makes it a little more confusing than it already is. The water rises to 3 different levels, but one of the switches to get rid of all the water is at the very top, but certain emerald shards require that you raise the water level to get it. All of this makes Aquatic Mine a level I tolerate more than anything. It's not a bad level, but I do think that is one of the weaker levels in this game. Death Chambers and Egg Quarters are both levels that are not well liked, and for good reason. The previous levels I mentioned are open areas that allow you to get anywhere with your moveset, but Death Chambers and Egg Quarters goes against all of that. They are levels that require you to run down corridors and hallways to find the keys to the base, but since you can't just glide all over the place in these levels, you go through every single hallway to try to find the keys, which makes this level more of a maze than anything. D's in one other level I will mention later I would not recommend getting hints on. Meteor Herd is considered one of the weaker ones up there with Mad Space, but I honestly think that this is one of my favorite treasure hunting levels in the game. This level has no gimmicks attached to it, which makes it one of the more pure treasure hunting levels to play. Also, going from the very top of the map to the very bottom by using the drill drive is one of the most satisfying things in any Sonic game. Never got tired of this level. Security Hall is an interesting idea for a treasure hunting level. The gimmick of this one is that you have to turn on certain sections of the cell area to get the Chaos Emeralds in there. I like this a lot more than Aquatic Mine, because there are two distinct levels that are faster to traverse than an Aquatic Mine, and that it's really only tied to one Chaos Emerald, instead of not knowing which of the three emerald shards will require certain levels of water. Another one of my favorite treasure hunting levels. I think everyone can agree that the worst level in the treasure hunting levels is Mad Space. What makes this the level one that is really annoying to play is the gimmick of this level. There are 3 mini planets that you have to go through and get to the top of the level. 2 of the planets have their own gravity, which messes with your controls and camera, making the level more annoying to get through than all the other levels of the playstyle. Part of me wants to say that the treasure hunting playstyle is better than Adventure 1, but I think it is both better and a little bit worse. Because while there were improvements made, the mixed bag of levels prevents me from saying I prefer some of them over the levels Knuckles went through in Adventure 1. Not a bad playstyle, just could have been more refined in areas. The final playstyle in this game is the Mech playstyle, which features Tails and Dr. Eggman. They go through 9 stages, which are Prison Lane, Mission Street, Hidden Base, Eternal Engine, Iron Gate, Sand Ocean, Lost Colony, Weapons Bed, and Cosmic Wall. Tails and Eggman don't control the same as the other characters in this game. They are based off of E102 Gamma from Adventure 1. So the real question is, how did they transfer his controls to Adventure 2? I think that while they brought over all of his abilities to the gameplay, I do think that the heaviness of Tails and Eggman, as well as their handling, makes them obsolete in Gamma. Tails and Eggman cannot jump if their life depended on it. When you are platforming as them, their jumps will be too short that it becomes hard to really get onto the platform you want to get on, which makes them not as fun as Gamma. Their handling is also one I am not a fan of, since every time that they turn to make a corner, they lose almost all of their momentum and have to start all over again, which makes the playstyle feel more stop and go than Gamma in Adventure 1. I will say that hovering makes the platforming less tedious, but I am not a fan of how clunky Tails and Eggman control in this game. A change they made to the playstyle is adding a health bar for the mechs. Gamma didn't have a health bar, so there was a little to no challenge for him. In Adventure 2, the health bar is what it is, and if you lose all your health, you will die. But you can refill it using rings, so there is a point for rings being in this stage and to be collected. Also, this change allows the enemies to be more aggressive than in the other playstyles. One thing I thought was a cool idea in Adventure 1 was the timer for Gamma's levels. They give the player incentive to want to destroy as many badniks as possible to increase the timer, incentivizing them to use the mechanics of the game and learn them. The only major problem was that 4 out of the 5 levels Gamma goes through were short and could be beaten without defeating a badnik. They ditched this mechanic in the sequel, which was a missed opportunity, because aside from the A rank, there isn't really any other reason to defeat enemies. The removal of the time also makes the auto-scrolling parts of levels even more weird, since they add nothing to the level, like most other auto-scrolling levels in the series. The level design for these stages are linear hallways or linear areas that are filled with enemies. Going level by level, we start at Prison Lane, which is a fine enough level for Tails that gets you to learn the mechanics of the playstyle and has the least amount of automation. Mission Street is probably one of the more annoying levels in this game, since it features a problem that plagues almost all of Tails' levels, which are enemies appearing right in front of you to fuck you over. These are cheap ways of the game trying to make you lose health or rings. It may not be bad, but when you are trying to actually play the game to the best it wants you to, these can be really annoying, and I never really liked the platforming in this level, so it's one of the weaker levels for this playstyle. Hidden Base is probably the best Tails level in the game. The level contains little to no enemies appearing in front of you. The non-temp of the stage being the pillars is not as bad as the automation in other stages, and it's fairly simple to get through with little platforming, which is all I really want from the mech stages, but still not contender for one of the best stages in the game overall, to be honest. Eternal Engine is a fine enough final level for Tails. It has some clever design like using bombs on doors or platforms to prevent you from spam shooting everything at sight, but I feel like this level is the most padded out of them all, with platforms you need to wait for and floating through space to get through a door. It's just so boring to go through. Iron Gate is a fine level for Eggman. It's similar to Prison Lane, but I honestly prefer Prison Lane because I never liked the gimmick of shooting down these doors since they hinder the pacing of the level, but other than that, it was fine. Then we get Sand Ocean, which is my pick for the worst level for the mech playstyle. It has the non-tent and hidden base, which isn't bad on its own, but it is complemented with the non-tent that is waiting for platforms to come to you while you just wait there. The epitome of a pace breaker. It gets better when you get the hover for sure, but when playing for the video on a fresh file, this is agonizing to get through. Definitely one of the worst levels in the game. Lost Colony is a whatever level for this playstyle. It's just hallways filled with enemies and you kill them, it honestly just shows you how bare bones the mechanics for this gameplay style for the most part. Weapon spin is my favorite level for the mech playstyle. The only reason it is my favorite is the amount of points you get in this level and the fact that there is no automation or content whatsoever. It's an actual hallelujah moment for this gameplay style, but it's still far from being my favorite levels in the game. Finally, we have Cosmic Ball, which is an interesting idea for a level. Using the hover to fly a bit in space, but this level still has the non-tent that plagues most of these levels. It just requires you to do nothing but shoot. I get why speedrunners skip these sections of these levels. The mech gameplay is not bad, but it's definitely my least favorite part of the game, with levels that aren't as fun as any of the speed levels or most of the treasure hunting levels. But we still have some things to talk about before we get to the story of the game. This game also has bosses, so let's quickly go over them. Bigfoot and Hotshot are pretty standard bosses for Sonic and Shadow. When you first fight them, they seem very slow, but when you get good at the game, you can beat them in less than a minute, but they are basic first bosses. Next is the Tails and Eggman rival battles. These rival battles are pretty brainless, to be honest. All you really do is shoot at the rival until they are dead. The battle in the Ark is definitely the hardest because of the abilities the rivals gain when in the fight. Next is Flying Dog, where all I said about Bigfoot and Hotshot are in this fight. I don't understand why Rouge has to fight the boss to begin with, when you could remove it and nothing would feel removed to begin with. Next is the first Sonic and Shadow rival battle, and it is pretty darn brain dead, where you honestly just have to spam the homing attack to the rival till they are defeated. Next is King Boom Boo, who is the most interesting boss in the game, with you needing to get to his back to use the hourglass to attack him. Typical first timer would say this is a slow fight, but once you get better at the game, you will learn how to land multiple hits on him and it never gets old to do. One of the better bosses in this game. Next is the Egg Golem. Sonic's Egg Golem is more of a platforming challenge that is pretty simple to fight, but when Eggman fights the Egg Golem, it becomes a different fight entirely, which is honestly like, and I wish that Adventure 1 did this with repeat boss fights, except for the Chaos 6 fight with Big, because that shit sucks. Then you get to the rival battle with Knuckles and Rouge, where you can do this.
I have no choice. I must protect the mess.
That explains it right there. Then there is the final Sonic vs. Shadow fight, where it is pretty darn fun to either try and bait the other into doing a special attack or learning to lightspeed dash into them to do damage. One of the better fights in this game, but I would still say that we haven't had a great boss fight in this game or the series so far. The problem is that the bosses in this game are either too simple or have problems for the average player to understand. We will just have to wait a bit before we get to the great boss fights in the series. Now, the gameplay is fun and all, but Sonic games are meant to be replayed, so what makes replaying this game so satisfying for most players?
That was cool!
The ranking system is one of the best things added to the franchise. For each level you do in this game, you are graded on your final total score of the level, which is tallied by your in-level score, your ring count, and your total time. To get the best rank in this game, you have to know all of the systems in place and figure out the best routes and tricks to get the best time or to get the most points with killing enemies. For speed levels, you want to be fast while also collecting rings and defeating enemies. For treasure hunting levels, use one or no hints to get the best bonus points from collecting emeralds, while also doing it as fast as possible. And for mech levels, defeat enemies in a chain while also doing it as fast as possible. You have to work hard to get A ranks, which makes this one of the most rewarding systems ever added in a Sonic game, since the game is rewarding you for getting good and learning the ins and outs of the game, which is what all Sega games strive at. We will go into each game's ranking system when we get to them, but for right now, I think Sonic Adventure 2 has the best ranking system in the series, though we will see if I feel the same way when we get to the Sonic Heroes review. The story in Sonic Adventure 2 is well beloved, and for good reason I would say. Let's start off with the hero campaign. After the events of City Escape, Sonic finally comes face to face with the hedgehog that everyone has been confusing for Sonic, Shadow the Hedgehog. The scene is really cool as it shows us Shadow for the first time to the audience, and the cinematography is more interesting in this scene than any of the other scenes in the game. Now, there is a problem with the plot in this game, and it's that Sonic and Shadow get confused by the humans around them. Now, I don't really mind this, since it gives us a compelling reason for Sonic and Shadow to fight, I would say, but it is something that caught me off guard when I first played the game. Since Sonic and Shadow look similar when you remove the colors, but when Sonic is very clearly blue, and Shadow is very clearly black, it just becomes harder to sell for me. But I still really like this scene. The reason I believe that the scene is that way is that Shadow was originally gonna look different with a design that looks more like Sonic, but it was scrapped for the design that we have today. Then we get a scene with Knuckles and Rouge fighting over the Master Emerald before Knuckles breaks it to protect it, and I never really cared much about this part of the story, since it's really a way for us as the player to want to get the pieces back and that Eggman is up to something, but that's really about it. Then we get Tails and Amy breaking Sonic out of the prison prison that sets up the breadcrumbs for something that will be in the last story, but other than that, not much thought. I will say that Sonic and Shadow's interaction in Green Forest is weird to me. Sonic and Shadow are calling each other Faker or fake hedgehogs, and that's really about it. Sonic has beef with Shadow, but Shadow's just doing his own job, which doesn't really involve Sonic, so it's just weird. After the explosion on Prison Island, we then get to the plot in the hero story really kicking off with Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy working together to stop the Eclipse Cannon from destroying the Earth. It sets forward with the heroes wanting to stop Eggman. The plot reaches its peak around the 2/3 mark of the story when Sonic, Tails, and Amy work together to destroy the cannon. Just when Sonic is about to throw in the fake Chaos Emerald to end the job, Amy gets kidnapped by Dr. Eggman, and Sonic races to reach her, which leads to one of the best scenes in the game. Sonic and Tails have the fake emerald and are about to give it to Eggman. The atmosphere is tense as this is the way for the heroes to defeat Eggman, but Eggman then traps Sonic in a capsule and plans to destroy him for good. Eggman tricks Tails into revealing that the emerald was fake, which is just so clever of Eggman. He is the best in this game. Sonic is shot into space and is presumed dead, which leads to Tails doing what Sonic would have wanted him to do.
Sonic is asking for the first time to do something for him. I won't let him down. I won't give up!
Tails definitely feels like he has grown up since Adventure 1, with him leading the charge on the plan he has to stop the cannon from destroying the Earth. In this scene where he deals with Eggman head on, it's really solid character work. Amy, on the other hand, I am not really a big fan of in this plot, since she has the same shtick of wanting to help but always getting left behind. I liked her in the last story with Shadow, but other than that, I don't think the plot really needed her aside from that scene in the last story and when she busts Sonic out of Prison Island. Knuckles isn't really super active in this plot aside from helping the gang get Rocket to head to the Ark, but I do like his banter with Rouge and how even though she was trying to steal the emerald, Knuckles apologized to her and I really like that.
What?
I'm sorry if I hurt you.
Sonic hasn't really changed since the last game, since he is the same character throughout the series, but I do like that he doesn't stop even if he dies, with the final scene showing that when he is able to use Chaos Control for the first time to escape the capsule. He knew of this ability since Shadow used it when they first met, and it isn't impossible for him to do it with the fake emerald since it has the same properties as the real emerald. We see that doing Chaos Control took everything out of Sonic, and even after all of that, he still runs off to reach the cannons to destroy it.
I'm worried about Tails and Amy. I hate to ask, but could you help them? This is our last chance. I got it. Before the cannon fires, I'll slam dunk it in there.
As for the Dark Side story, I already told you what the setup is, and it's not really all that different. It's like I said at the beginning, it's interesting how the events are done from the village perspective. But I think it's really cool that we learn things from their point of view. We see how they knew about the cannon and how it works from Shadow. We see their plan play out on Prison Island. And we see the endgame and how they knew the heroes were coming after them from their point of view as well. One of my favorite realizations in this story is that Eggman knew that the emerald Sonic had on hand was the fake emerald, and he just wanted to do all of that to just make his death seem even more pointless and sufferable than if he got it from Tails. Rouge is in this plot, and I think she is more interesting than Knuckles in this game. We never really know what she is up to in this game, since she is after the Master Emerald, working for someone, and also working for the villains. So when it's revealed that she is working for the government, it's suspenseful with Shadow in the same room to reveal it to the audience. Shadow is also a great addition to the game. He has shown a lot of history in this game, with his past, and seeing him go through what his memories are, and how that conflicts with the decisions that he makes, like when he is on Prison Island and decides to save Rouge, but plays it off as him saving the Chaos Emeralds. He also has this aura to him that hasn't really been matched by future characters in the series. I honestly can't picture a version of Adventure 2 without Shadow. He is one of the most iconic characters in the game and left an impact on the franchise. I overall like the story of Sonic Adventure 2, but I wouldn't call it a masterpiece, but it feels what it sets out to do pretty well, which laid the groundwork for the third Sonic movie, which has some of those ideas better fleshed out. Now let's talk about ports. Like I said at the beginning of the video, Sonic Adventure 2 was released on the Sega Dreamcast, but then got remastered on the Nintendo Gamecube around a year after the game was released. There's a conversation to be had for which one is better, but I think that both versions of the game have their pros and cons. The Gamecube version has better models than the Dreamcast version, and it looks a lot cleaner, but that is a given when porting a game to a more powerful hardware. There are cutscene differences that make the presentation not as good as the original though, which was monitored by Speeps Highway on his video about the changes, which I recommend watching. The audio balancing of Adventure 2 Battle is much worse than the original.
Talk about low-budget flights, no food or movies. I'm out of here. I like running better. Talk about low-budget flights, no food or movies. I'm out of here. I like running better.
Honestly, it's up to you for which version you think is better, since the differences between them isn't the same as the differences compared to Sonic Adventure on Dreamcast, Sonic Adventure DX on Gamecube. I personally am more used to the battle version of the game, so that is the one I draw towards the most. But I do think the Dreamcast version has the better story presentation through the little things that were changed. In 2012, Sega ported the game onto modern consoles at the time, those being the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and PC. These versions of the games are basically just enhanced versions of the game, but unlike the HD version of Sonic Adventure, this port actually managed to enable widescreen from the very beginning. But like with the Sonic Adventure video, I played the PC version of the game with some mods enabled. The main mods I used for this game are the HD GUI and HD GUI for Character Select mod that replaces the HUD and menu elements with higher resolution versions of those HUD and menu elements. I also have Dreamcast lighting installed, since the lighting in the Dreamcast version is far superior than the lighting in the battle version. And the main mod I recommend the most out of all these mods is the Cutscene Revamp mod by Speeps Highway. This mod makes the cutscenes of the port look more similar to the cutscene presentation of the Dreamcast version of the game, turns certain cutscenes that were 4x3 in the Dreamcast port into 16x9, and gives you a 16x9 version of the Sonic Adventure 2 battle opening. Definitely the best mod for Adventure 2. It makes the PC version of the game the best version, but if you don't have a good enough PC, I still think the HD versions are fine enough version of the game to play. Now let's get into the extras of Adventure 2. There are a few extras in this game that you can do. Each level contains 4 missions attached to it. Collect 100 rings, find the lost Chow, beat the level under a time limit, and beat the hard version of the level. Aside from the 4th mission, I think all the other missions are well done, with them needing you to take advantage of all the abilities you have to beat missions 3 and 5, and to learn the levels in and out for mission 2 to beat them and get the A rank. If I ever replay this game, the mission 5s are my go-to for replaying the levels. There is also kart racing in this game. I didn't really mention the kart racing before, because I honestly don't really have much to say on it compared to the other stuff in this game. The other extra mode is 2-player battle, where you and a second player pick a character of a certain playstyle and either race to the finish line, find all the emerald shards, or beat the shit out of each other in mechs. I played this with my friend Juice from the Juice Box, and it was really fun, trying to one-up each other in races or battles. But I will say that not all the maps are perfect in this mode, with match space being in this game mode. But I do think that if you are able to find a friend with SC2 on Steam, this is worth playing. I also released a video on my second channel of us playing the mode together, if you want to see some of the most hilarious gameplay out there.
Hey, fuck you!
He punched the ground, brother.
One of the most well-known aspects of Sonic Adventure 2 is the Chow Garden, where you take care of a virtual pet by feeding them, taking them to school, but we all know only good fathers do that. So we instead forced them into karate and racing each other for fun. I never really delved much into the Chow Garden because of the fact that every time I do try and raise a Chow, something happens to my PC and leads me to losing that Chow forever. One day I will make the Chow my dreams, but at the moment, it's a fun little side mode to shock myself with. Finally, if you collect all 180 emblems in this game, you unlock the secret level, Green Hill Zone. Green Hill Zone is a fully 3D level in the game that was made to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the franchise. I don't have a lot to say on this stage itself, since it's what it is, a 3D version of the original Green Hill. It's pretty darn fun. With all that out of the way, we can now head into the last story, is Sonic Adventure 2.
The ultimate life form.
End of Mech.
Chaos
Vengeance.
control. Space desperation.
Supersonic.
Collision.
Untamed power of chaos.
Professor Gerald,
The truth about 50 years ago.
Sonic Adventure 2. Last episode. Wishes are eternal.
Eggman put the emerald into the Eclipse Cannon, which is what Shadow wanted Eggman to do, since putting the emerald into the Eclipse Cannon would send the Space Colony Ark plummeting to the Earth at a rate that it will destroy the planet. This plan was set up by what I and many Sonic fans believe to be the main villain of the game, Professor Gerald Robotnik. All the heroes and Eggman go over Professor Gerald's diary. The diary reveals that after the Ark was raided by Gun, Gerald was still doing his research, but went insane and planned his revenge for the death of Maria. Gerald planted fake memories into Shadow to carry out his plan of destruction by using Maria as a crux for wanting Shadow to destroy the planet. Then shortly after, Gerald was executed, with Shadow being held on Prison Island, which is what led us to how the events of the Dark Story began. If you really think about it, Gerald is a Sonic villain that you can't really bring to justice. He is dead by the time the game begins, so all you can really do is try to prevent his plan from going through, which is an interesting take on a villain I've seen in a game. After the diary has been read, the heroes hatch a plan to use the Master Emerald to neutralize the entry of the Chaos Emeralds, just stopping the Ark from crashing into the Earth.
No worries. Just leave it to me. I'm the world's fastest hedgehog.
Let's get to work.
This leads into the final level of the game, Canon's Core. Canon's Core is a level I really want to love, but can't really say that. It has a lot of things I love about it, like the fact that you play as every character working together to get Sonic and Knuckles to the core of the canon, and how dying doesn't make you lose all of your points. But I can't really say that is my favorite final level in the series because of the fact that I am not the biggest fan of the mech controls, so the first two sections don't really work for me, and I find that Knuckles' section is a little too slow paced since it takes place underwater. The rest of the level is good with Rouge and Sonic, but overall not the best final level in the series. After the level, Amy finds Shadow looking at the Earth, saying that his mission is complete. Amy tries to get Shadow to help the others in saving the world, which leads to Shadow hearing Maria's true words for the first time in the game since we woke up on Prison Island. She never wanted Shadow to destroy the world for revenge. She wanted him to protect the Earth as her final dying wish. Realizing this, and knowing the true meaning behind Maria's words, Shadow sheds a tear and promises to help the others for Maria and for Amy. Sonic and Knuckles get to the core of the Ark, but then a giant creature known as the Bio-Lizard appears to stop them. But Shadow comes in and tells them to go to the altar while he distracts the Bio-Lizard, bringing us to the penultimate boss fight. The Bio-Lizard is definitely the hardest boss in this game. It needs you to know the ins and outs of the speed playstyle with rolling, grinding, and homing attacks, but I think this boss is bogged down for two reasons. The first is that the time between you attacking his weak spot is a little too long, while he tries to get you and then does his own attacks. Doesn't help that the camera makes it hard for you to see what is in front of you, since there are pools of whatever water this is that can kill you. The second reason is that his final attack can be really annoying to deal with. You float in the air while trying to avoid his pink bubbles, but the handling of Shadow floating in the air is so stiff that you might end up hitting the bubbles, but it's still one of the better boss fights in this game. Knuckles and Sonic reach the altar, where Knuckles performs the say that Tikal used to seal Chaos in the Master Emerald. But then the Bio-Lizard uses Chaos Control to control the Ark. Since he knows Chaos Control and the fact that he came before Shadow, it is basically proven that the Bio-Lizard was the first ultimate life form before Shadow, making them brothers. That's a weird family tree, I'll say that. Sonic and Shadow give each other a look of knowing, and we get one of the most aura-filled moments in all of Sonic. The final hazard is a boss fight that I wish I loved, but I can't say that in good faith. You guide Super Sonic and Super Shadow towards the final hazard, so that you can stop it from reaching the Earth. The difficulty ramps the further into the fight you go, with him shooting bubbles, then shooting lasers, then we'll have 2 lasers, and in the final 2 hits, he will use both the lasers and the bubbles to try to stop you from destroying him. But I find that the laser attack is unpredictable, which feels the worst when you are hit, and I find that trying to hit the weak point is weird, because sometimes you would just try and hit it but won't hit it. But this has rarely happened when I played the game, which honestly carries this boss is the story context. Sonic and Shadow are risking everything to try and save the world, whilst everyone on the Ark is cheering for you to stop the Ark, and then there's the music that is Live and Learn. Live and Learn is the main theme of the game, and it's probably the most iconic vocal song in the entire series. It's definitely one of my favorite songs that Crush 40 has done for the series, but we'll see if it's my absolute favorite, cause I really like the final boss theme in Sonic Heroes. Though this song still slaps harder than it should.
Hanging on the edge of tomorrow. Live and learn from the words against the day. Live and learn. If you beg on, if you borrow. Live and learn. You may never find your way. Live and learn.
Did you really think you had a chance?
With the final hazard gone, Sonic and Shadow use all of their power to stop the Ark from crashing into the Earth by using one last Chaos Control. Shadow, however, was unable to maintain his super form and plummets down to the Earth, seemingly dead given the circumstances, but content that he fulfilled Maria's wish. Sonic returns onto the Ark with the others. He informs them that Shadow did not make it.
Do you really think that the professor created him, Shadow, to carry out the revenge on all those who live here on Earth?
He was what he was. A brave and heroic hedgehog who gave his life to save this planet. Shadow the Hedgehog.
I guess you're right.
Eggman talks to Tails about how he looked up to his grandfather, but truly wonders if he truly meant to destroy the world. Knuckles and Rouge talk about the future they have in store for them, and then Sonic, still hung up on what happened, tries to keep a positive attitude, ending Sonic Adventure 2.
Created the ultimate life form.
What's the matter, Sonic?
Oh, it's nothing. Come on, let's go home. To the planet as cool and blue as me. Sayonara, Shadow the Hedgehog.
Sonic Adventure 2 is a weird game for me. Part of me understands why so many people love this game and consider it one of their all-time favorite Sonic games, but part of me also understands why people wouldn't be into this one compared to others. As for me, I really liked this game and thought it was a big step forward in terms of production quality, with a story structure that's easier to follow than the previous game, better cutscene animation, better voice acting, a great soundtrack, fun speech stages, fun treasure hunting stages, bosses that are fun to fight for the most part, and an endgame that did so much more than what was done previously. But this game is held back by its mech gameplay, some levels that aren't all that fun, driving that can be hard to understand at first, and some bosses that can be a chore to fight or not all that fun. I do really like this game, but I would be lying if I told you that it was one of my all-time favorite Sonic games. It's definitely top 10 for sure, but number 10 on that slot. But I also can't deny that this game is a perfect sequel to Sonic Adventure, and that this game left an impact on not only the franchise, but Sega. It's a perfect sequel since it expands on the original game in many ways, from the story, gameplay, extras, and it left an impact on the franchise. It was the final game on the Dreamcast, it was the first Sonic game on a Nintendo console, and it solidified Sega as a software manufacturer instead of a hardware manufacturer. Sonic Adventure 2 may not be my favorite Sonic game, but it was an important game in many regards. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and as always, have a nice day.